This isn't one of mine. This is sent in by Mark from Australia. Did you hear the one about the insomniac, agnostic dyslexic, who lay awake in bed all night, wondering if there really is a dog? Crack on. Okay, guys, something slightly different today for Raw Therapy. We're going to be working in Raw Therapy 5.8 because what I'm going to do is show you stuff that you can actually go and do now. And Raw Therapy video, and we're starting off over here in, as you can see, bump, Lightroom. And a lot of people have asked me, Andy, why haven't you said anything about the new additions in Lightroom and Photoshop? And to be quite honest with you, the reason I haven't said anything about them is because I don't really rate them all that much, no. And the one we're looking at here is obviously this new thing, colour grading. And oh dear, if you'll notice, we've got colour grading and we're missing something. We're missing something that we've had for a long, long time. It's called split toning. And split toning used to be shadows and highlights. This is shadows and highlights with midtones put in. And then instead of sliders, it's dressed up to look like something out of Final Cut Pro. And yeah, it's nothing but split toning. So I'm going to shut Lightroom down because I will do a video on this, whether I'll do it for you guys or just over on my Patreon site, I don't know. But it doesn't impress me very much at all. But I'm just going to quit Lightroom. And what I want to talk about today inside of Raw Therapy, and as we said, we're going to be working in Raw Therapy 5.8, is over in the Colour tab, and we're going to be talking about this, colour toning. And it's a little bit like split toning, but not, because it's just got such a boatload of control on it. And it's got masking on it. Yes, masking inside Raw Therapy, who'd have thunk it? Yeah, well, it's been there for quite a while. And colour toning's one of them. And when 5.9 public release comes out, you'll find you've got access to masking in other places as well. But what I'm going to do today is just work up a couple of pictures very, very quickly using the simplest and most basic usage of this colour toning. And it's got lots of options. And so we best get on with actually doing something, haven't we? And let's not forget, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, leave a nice comment below in the comment section if that's what you fancy doing, and click the subscribe button and the old ringety-tingety bell to get a notification of next time I put a video up. Yes! Oh, my God! Oh, the excitement. Right, so we've got an image here, and what can we say about it? Yes, it's done on a very dark, dismal, gloomy day down at Magpie Mine in just outside of Bakewell in the Peak District in Derbyshire. And yeah, we've got a very leaden, overcast sky. It's got a bit of texture in the clouds, but it's not specifically very well colour balanced, even though the sky is quite neutral grey. And the sandstone of the, I think it's sandstone, most likely is limestone, but well, there you go. But the stone of the buildings and the chimney, it's a bit lacking in colour. And the thing is, we could do all sorts of things to this image to try and bring colour up. We could increase saturation, etc., etc. But the only thing is, that's going to affect the clouds as well. So most often when you get an image like this, you think, well, I'll do a little bit to it in Raw Therapee, or I'll do a bit to it in Lightroom, and then to make a mask, I'm going to have to go off into Photoshop. No. So let's dig on in and have a look and see what's going on in this very simplest of colour toning module demonstrations. So you can see we've got an absolute boatload of options. We've got lab blending, we've got RGB sliders, RGB curves, colour balance, shadows, midtones, highlights. Ringing a bell. Colour balance, shadows, midtones, highlights. Bing, bing, bing. Colour grading in Lightroom. Yeah, except it's been in here for ages. And so, saturation 2 colours, lab correction grid, colour correction regions. And it's colour correction regions we're going to be looking at today. Again, very, very simply. You'll notice we've got this colour gradient or colour grid here, which we will be making use of in a very simplistic way. We've got sliders down here, which we're not actually going to touch today. There's lots of scope for me doing more videos inside of here without making them overly long. Jesus, how long would that be for me? An overly long video? 4 hours? Yeah, most likely. I don't know. All we're going to do is something very, very simple, so you guys can go and have a crack at it yourself on your own images. And don't forget, if you're a Patreon member, you can go and download these 2 images that we're going to be working on, so you can have a play along with Andy. Right, so you can actually go and do a bit of supportive reading on what's going on in here by heading off over to the internet and coming over to Rawpedia, and in the section for the colour toning, you can see it's a funny old section in Rawpedia. It's not very extensive. It's a little bit highbrow, but it's sort of, to me, it's not big enough to give you a good idea of what's possible inside the tool. And I've got to admit, I am still learning some of it myself. But there is if we come down to the colour corrections region, there's a link here to the American Society of Cinematographers, the colour decision or CDL list. And if you click that link and go over and read this article, you might get some semblance of idea of what's going on. But anyway, let's come back to Raw Therapee. And as I said, I want to bring back the colour within the buildings and the chimney, but I don't want to affect the sky. And, you know, it's going to be impossible to do unless we make a mask. And I bet you're still trying to work out how you get masks in Raw Therapee, but, well, watch this. If we come to the bottom part of the colour toning control panel, you can see we've got masks, and we can have hue masks based on hue, based on chrominance, and based on L. Now, whether that L is lightness or luminosity, I'm not too sure. It doesn't say anything specific on the Rawpedia entry. And so there you go. But as far as the majority of people are concerned who are coming to this from the likes of Photoshop and Lightroom, you're not really going to discern much of a difference between lightness and luma anyway. So let's just open up the equalizer, and the equalizer looks really weird, and it's totally non-intuitive for people who've not grown up with this. But let's just go and check this show mask. Oh boy, yeah, all right. So, it's yellow. How cool's that? Yeah. Now, what is it that we want to do? If we just turn that show mask off for a little bit, and I pick up this cursor indicator here, when I hover over a tone in the image, it's going to drop a straight line onto this luminance or lightness equalizer. So that tells you where on the scale the lighter parts of the sky are. This will tell you where the darker parts of the sky are if you hover over a dark part of the sky. So you can see the sky's sort of roundabout at its darkest, middle grey. So all I'm going to do is, because that mask, when I activate it, is all over the image, all I'm going to do is grab the highlights end, because don't forget we've got a black to white grayscale here, which is just about the only thing that helps you. And we'll just drag it down to the bottom of the scale and let go. And ayo, how cool's that? Now, the other thing that you're going to notice, you're used to masking in Photoshop where black conceals and white reveals. And you can think of white when you're doing an adjustment to either tone or colour as being transparent. And so it shows the adjustment through. And where you've got the black, you don't see the adjustment. But of course, Raw Therapy's got to be different, hasn't it? Yeah? It's just back to front. Because everything that's yellow in this mask is what's going to be affected by the adjustment. So I'm just going to turn off Show Mask. And so, of course, it hasn't done anything because we haven't made an adjustment. But if we now come up to this colour panel here, and if I just grab the middle point and move it to, say, there. Now can you see how much colour we brought back into the image? And it's only in the building, the stone of the building. I'm just going to hop over to the exposure panel and I'm going to activate lab adjustments. And I'm just going to bring the contrast in lab down a bit. And now you can see the buildings are looking a little bit lighter because we've removed contrast. We haven't added lightness, we've actually taken something away. So if I come back over to the colour panel now, and then I turn off colour toning, you can see the difference we've made. There's the image without the colour toning added, and there's the image with the colour toning added to it. So we've got all these different controls down here, and I'll go through these in another video. But if we just flip back over to lab again and maybe add a little bit of lightness, probably take it up to about 10 or 12. There you go, that's really made one heck of a difference. And there's our image as we started out with, and this is what we've ended up with. And if I go into this image at 100%, look at that edge. It's absolutely perfect. I need to get rid of this tone selector. So it's right click again. And we're back into the hand tool. And I can move around to go and check the top of the chimney. Look at that. The masking is absolutely perfect. And let's come into an awkward part. I actually run out of depth of field on the lens here, so that's why it's looking a little bit off. But you can see around these little fringes of herbage that are growing on the old tumble down wall. They're just perfect. And to get a mask that clean inside of Photoshop would take quite a bit of doing. You'd sort of do it with a mask and maybe a touch of blend modes as well. And you know what I mean, all you can do with these things inside Raw Therapee is quite astonishing, really. So there's image number one. And as I said, if you're a Patreon member, go download that image and the one we're going to work on in a moment. And you can work along with me. Let's just come into the exposure for a final little adjustment. And let's just go and add highlight reconstruction. And we'll put it in luminance recovery probably. And just take that over there. Now, actually, there's no need for it, not really. Just back that off. And I think that looks quite good. And of course, if we come back to our colour panel here, or our colour toning panel, we could make the walls go green if we wanted to, and we're still not affecting the sky. But we don't really want to do that, do we? No. That's just about perfect, and it's the proper colour of the stonework. And, I'm quite pleased with that. And a very, very simple adjustment and a very simple mask. Now, if I move on to this next image over here, Reykjanestad on Iceland. Forgive the little bit of cave wall there. This is an awkward image. Always proves awkward in processing because it's fairly low contrast but high contrast in areas at the same time. And there's a lot of spray in the air. This is a long exposure. What are we? 5 seconds. It's not that calm. Well, you've heard me mention it before. It's like a cross between a washing machine and a meat grinder. And there is just spray fog everywhere. But what we're wanting to do in this image, or what I want to do, is it's got a blue cast to it. And I want to remove the blue cast from the rocks. But I want to keep the blue cast and the low contrast fading off into the background. So the first thing I'm going to do is a little lab adjustment to it. I'll actually lighten the image just a little tiny bit, and I'll pull a bit of contrast out of it. So we made it go flat, but what we're doing is we're dropping the contrast in the darker areas, and I'm now going to come over to the colour toning, and I'm going to create yet another mask on the L equalizer. And same thing as before, I'm going to go show mask, and I'm going to remove the sky from the mask. And we'll do that in exactly the same way as before. Now you can see that the sky has still got a slightly yellow tint to it. So we need to move the highlights to the left. And now you can see we've got rid of the yellow tint in the sky, and we've got rid of the yellow tint in the water. So the only things that are going to be affected by this adjustment are the rocks. However, I just want to make sure that I've got all the rocks selected a bit more uniformly than they are at the minute. So I'm just going to back that black point slider slightly to the right, and then if you hover over the points, the point will go red, and then you'll see little slider adjusters coming out at the side in colours. And if you're very, very careful and delicate, you can now see you've got that double-headed side-to-side arrow. And what we can do is click and drag, and we can broaden the shoulder of that curve and also straighten this portion of the curve. So this is a curve representing the density of the mask, a little bit like litho film in an old black and white darkroom. So we've got pure black. Well, it wouldn't actually be litho film, it would be ortho film. To actually get this shoulder of tone, and then there'd be a steep drop off down to what you might call D-min, or your minimum density, right down at the bottom here, and then everything from the sort of this grey tone upwards is transparent. I still think it should be the other way round, but well, there you go. So this is what we've got for a mask, and I'm just going to go and uncheck show mask, and of course you can't see any difference because we haven't made any difference. Now I'm going to come into the image at 100%, and you can see the blueness of the cast in the image. So what I want to do is I want to neutralise, because these rocks, they're nearly black, but they're not. They're a brownish black. So we've got a bit of a blue cast on the rocks. In fact, it's all across the image, but it does favours for us in the water, but not in the shadows. So all I'm going to do is do that self-same colour adjustment again. Now you can see we've really severely changed the colour on the rocks, and I don't want to change it that much. So I'm just going to pull it down to make it more neutral. And I think the way I can make it more neutral is to steer it away from green and make it go more orange. And I'm just looking for what I think is an acceptable colour for that rock, because I was there, so I'll know what it looked like. And that to me is not looking too bad. It's a little bit oversaturated, so I'm going to pull it closer to the point of origin, which will decrease the saturation. But if I now go and turn off colour toning, there's the blueness in the rock, and now it's gone, and the rock is pretty much as it should be, or how I want it. Now I'm just going to move across to this area here. Why is it shrunk down? Come on, up you come. So we're back up to 100%, and I just want to see the rocks that are in the open air and the rocks that are under the water. And I'm going to go and activate the show mask again. So you can see the rocks are pretty much fully selected. Those that are out of the water, those that are creating part of the high contrast area in the image. But can you see the rocks under the water are not selected? Now then, watch this. Mask blur. Currently set to 0. Let's crank that up. Oh, look at that. I'm getting a little bit of detail in the rocks in the foreground. But look, I'm getting subtle yellow coming into the rocks under the water. The further under the water they are, the less yellow I'm seeing. But that yellow is telling me where this colour adjustment is going to appear in the image. Get it? And because the yellow is decreasing, that means the colour adjustment is decreasing as we go under this blue tinted water. But now we're fundamentally getting a really good, accurate colour change to all the rocks, because we've got a tint change in the rocks under the water, but the further under the water they are, the less is the tint change. And so, you know, what can you say? You can't do this. I was going to say shit then, but I hadn't better. You can't do this stuff in Lightroom. No, you can't. And yeah, it just amazes me. So just let's come out to a fit to screen view, and let's go and activate that show mask again. The blur is a superb control for just getting that final bit of touch and polish. And if you look at that, look at all those rocks, you can now see every one of those rocks that's under the water is actually contained within that mask. And so if I turn show mask off, and now you can see I've got a really, really strong colour change to the rocks. I'm actually going to pull it down a little bit more. Rather like that. Yes, and I think that's quite good enough. We'll turn it off. And there's our blue cast to the rocks. We'll turn it back on, and then it's gone neutral. A little bit difficult for you to see at this small size. However, I now want to introduce you to another tool in here which you might not have come across, which is called Soft Light. Yes. this is pretty good for when you're working on an image which is quite low in contrast. And if I activate soft light, you can see it's thrown a lot of contrast back in the image. Now what we can do is we can counteract the darkness by reducing the strength, or we could put it back to its default of 30 and go and add a little bit more lightness on the lab channel, rather like that. Let's leave it there. Let's come back to colour. Let's drop soft light. Just a smidge. And now you can see I've really got that depth going in the picture. It's a subtle adjustment, and don't forget the image isn't finished, and it would get handed off to Photoshop for some localized dodging and burning. But of course in Raw Therapee 5.9 we could also bring local adjustments and excluding spots to bear on this image before we put it anywhere near the likes of Photoshop. And if I just come and forget where it is now, it's not here. Is it in details? Yes, it is. Now there's another tool here which you may or may not have tried before. In Lightroom we've got a thing called dehaze, and it's something that has to be used very, very carefully. But we've got haze removal here, which is just the same as dehaze, and this is haze removal in Raw Therapee 5.8. It has been modified slightly over in 5.9, but you can see how much contrast that's put back in the image. Let's just go and throw a little bit more lightness into that. A little bit more. That's way too much, Andrew. Come on, don't be silly. And we could take a bit of contrast out of it. Yes. And let's go back to haze removal. And sometimes you'll find it produces a colour shift. So what you can do is drop it into luminance only, and then it won't affect the saturation of any of the colours in the image. And are we going to bring the depth down? Now you can see we're making a bit of a difference in the highlights. And let's pull those darks down as well to get rid of those halos in there. And I don't really know whether I actually really want it on. It's the sort of thing where I would add it to a copy of an image and then go and blend it away in Photoshop. So, you know, it is what it is, but the soft light is quite a handy tool to use under the colour tab. And, you know, we've got a very, very strong fall off in contrast within this image now. It's nice and contrasty at the front. We've got proper colour adjustments. The sky has been completely untouched. And the sea stacks look a lot further away now than they did when we started. So that's where we started out. That's where we finished up. Take that image over into Photoshop, start working it up. A little bit of localized dodging and burning, and we'll be golden. All right, guys and girls, hope you enjoyed that video. Hope you got something useful out of it. Raw Therapee 5.8 we were working in. You can go and, if all you've got on your computer is the latest public release, Raw Therapee 5.8, you can go and emulate everything that I've just shown you on your own images. So there you go. As I said before, give it a thumbs up if you've enjoyed this video. Leave a nice comment below. If you've got anything bad to say, keep it to your bloody self. Yeah, hit the subscribe button. Do the thing with the ringety-tingety bell. You know what to do. And until the next time, guys and gals, stay safe, stay well, keep taking those pictures, and I shall see you in the next one. Yes, I will. Tooroo.